You are Garrett, an extremely skilled thief on the streets of the city, a sprawling metropolis of medieval motifs and steam power. You don't steal for power or riches, but because you enjoy it. Then one day you get a job offer that seems too good to be true, and it gets you into a world of trouble. In 1996, a writer named Ken Levine brainstormed an initial dark fantasy action game that would eventually evolve into a warped version of the Legends of King Arthur, and then, finally, into the first stealth-focused FPS. On this episode of Knee Deep in the Dead, we dive into one of the main ancestors for the modern stealth genre, Thief.
So, this is the lost city. It's not lost no more.
It was a long, winding road from concept to the game that was originally released by Looking Glass Studios in November 1998. Thief's life started in 1996 as a proposal for a first-person sword game entitled Better Red Than Undead, a game in which you, as a CIA officer, hack up zombies from Chernobyl in an attempt to flee the Soviet Union. This idea was immediately dismissed. It was replaced by a game called Dark Camelot, which featured an unusual twist on Arthurian legend.
In this Camelot, Arthur is a dictator, Merlin is a psychopath, the Knights of the Round Table are the muscle, and you're public enemy number one.
Here we go.
There was an air of confusion in the studio as to what game they were truly making until they finally settled on the stealth aspect of the game, where the focus was on avoidance and discretion rather than full-on violence. With this shift in design, Dark Camelot became The Dark Project, and the focus became one of avoiding combat rather than initiating it.
What was that noise?
Ken Levine and another developer named Dorian Hart proposed the initial stealth system that would become Thief's pinnacle achievement for the genre. The system was primarily based off of submarine simulator Silent Service, a game released back in 1985. The goal was to allow the player to be weak when exposed and fighting, but dangerous and deadly from the shadows. Everything was in place to push full development of the Dark Project, and then disaster struck.
That shot was meant for me.
Looking Glass Studios was hit by extreme budget problems, resulting in half of the development staff being laid off. This resulted in the creation of another game company called Ion Storm, who would eventually go on to develop another groundbreaking game. This series of shakeups lasted nearly half a year, also resulting in the departure of Levine. This resulted in low morale and the team nearly broken, and the extremely important AI systems very broken. A programmer named Tom Lennard took over the job of fixing the game's code and, around November 1997, managed to rewrite most of the broken game AI. They changed the game's title one final time to Thief: The Dark Project, and the final drive to the completion of the game commenced.
Good thing I'm not afraid of heights.
Thief places you in the role of Garrett, a street urchin recruited by an organization called the Keepers. He eventually leaves the order to pursue his real love, thieving.
The Keepers were training me to be one of them, but I found other uses for those skills.
Garrett makes a name for himself on the streets of the city, eventually attracting the attention of a man named Constantine. Constantine asks Garrett to steal a legendary artifact called the Eye from an ancient cathedral. To do so, Garrett has to break into several locations to get the talismans that would allow him entry. When he returns the artifact to Constantine, he's betrayed, learning of Constantine's real identity as the evil, chaotic trickster.
This was not the way things were supposed to go.
It becomes Garrett's charge to destroy the trickster once and for all. The character of Garrett is one of the strongest elements of Thief. Played by Stephen Russell, he makes sarcastic observations and commentary all throughout the game.
Felix, you don't look so good. Good thing you're dying, Cuddy, or I'd have to kill you for stiffing me. Again.
The performance is solid and develops Garrett into a fun and interesting character.
It's a throne room. How pretentious can you get?
The basic gameplay of Thief revolves around three goals: stealth, avoidance, and planning. To make this possible, Thief's enemy and guard AI is based around paying attention to audio and visual clues rather than a more basic seek and destroy mindset like most FPSs to this point. To make this work, the game has an extreme focus on both light and sound. The indicator on the bottom of the screen shows how much noise Garrett's making and how exposed he is. Bright means guards will spot him, dark means he's nearly invisible. Garrett also has to mind his footing. Moving on grass and carpet is nearly silent, but stone and tile is noisy and can alert nearby guards. The guards are smart too. They'll be alerted by sounds, movement, bloodstains, bodies, and even servant non-player characters who flee at the sight of you.
What's that? Who goes?
Garrett has multiple tools at his disposal to give himself an edge in sneaking, including water arrows that can put out fires, moss arrows that put down a soft carpet to allow easier sneaking, gas arrows that knock out guards, and rope arrows that allow him to climb up or down to new areas. This avoidance is extremely important. Garrett is not a fighter. While capable of somewhat defending himself, he can only take a few hits before he goes down. Each level has a set of goals, usually involving Garrett stealing a particular item and then escaping. I found the game peaked when you're sneaking around homes, an opera house, a temple, and other locations, keeping to the shadows and knocking guards out to ease your passage. In one level, you are even treated to the wondrous singing styling of the amazing Raoul.
I'm so sad. Where has the treasure gone that once made me glad?
There are a few levels that introduce a more supernatural element to the game, and it's at this point that some of the design starts to just not really work. The zombies that form the main enemy in these levels against the undead are pains in the butt to avoid, and the only way to permanently defeat them is with holy water and water arrows, which makes them explode spectacularly. While the 3 levels with undead elements do provide a bit of change of pace, Thief loses it in the levels after Constantine's betrayal. In the episode on Half-Life, it talked about how that game lost a lot of what it had set up with the bizarre, seemingly random shift to Zen at the end of the game. Thief suffers from the same problem, which I have dubbed the Zen effect. The last 5 or so levels of Thief throw out the sneaking and thievery aspect of the majority of the game, along with the undead and guards you have to contend with, in favor of bizarre mutant creatures. You're seemingly placed in scenarios where you have to engage and disable or kill these creatures. It shifts the levels from recognizable buildings to caves and ruins that all start to look the same. These levels seem like remnants from Thief's development cycle when it was still Dark Camelot, and I found myself personally frustrated by them. The enemies seemed to be alerted by the tiniest movement and they'd swarm you, making combat impossible. Despite this, the levels that are good are extremely good. You find yourself moving carefully around, listening for the voices and footsteps of nearby guards, and trying to either sneak past them, or take them out and hide the body. Between the hell the developers had to go through to even make sure this game saw the light of day, and the extremely risky decision to make a first-person shooter based around avoiding combat, rather than engaging in it, the greatest surprise is that Thief became as legendary as it did. Thief, along with another legendary game on the PlayStation called Metal Gear Solid, created the stealth genre. A genre of games such as Assassin's Creed, Dishonored, and Splinter Cell, along with many other games that utilize any form of stealth techniques, owe their existence to.
What was that noise?
A reboot of Thief is scheduled to be released in 2014, so this game seems to be following in its predecessor's footsteps of having an odd development time. Early glimpses were less than optimistic, implying that the new version, if one can forgive the very early attempt at calling it Thief 4, changes the open-ended style of levels from the original in favor of highly scripted set pieces. Also under scrutiny is the replacement of Garrett's voice actor. Only time will tell if the new game is able to stand on its own 2 feet. However, 1998 would prove to be a banner year for groundbreaking and innovative titles, such as a game that took the FPS from the focus of a one-man army to a team of soldiers out to rid the world of terrorism. And we'll get to that in the next episode. Until then, my friends, as always, game on and take care.
Now go, go, go! Up the rope you go! Why do you move so slow?
The curtains went down on this guy a long time ago.